Hello, thank you. Nice to be here. So I try and look ahead a bit. So Wired is about where the world's going, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. So my brief today is kind of to identify some of the trends that are going to shape how all of us, the market, people in business, are going to be affected by technological trends. And it's not really about a crystal ball. If you want to predict what's happening, there's quite good lessons you can learn from, in the past, what we've got right and what we've got wrong. And I collect examples of the magical future world from the past. I just want to show you one example. It's an American corporate film from 1967 about how the world would be way ahead in 1999.
Fingertip shopping will be one of the many homemakers' conveniences. This video console will be channeled into the store of her choice. There, a camera will scan a display of wares, which she will select by push button. Another part of this console is a household monitor screen, which maintains a watch on critical areas in the house, swimming pool, or yard. What the wife selects on her console will be paid for by the husband at his counterpart console. All bills and transactions will be carried out electronically. A central bank computer will debit the family's account the amount of purchases and credit the department store, for example, informing the family's home computer at the same time. Father, at the touch of a button, receives an instantaneous printed copy of his budget, the amount of taxes he owes, the payments left on the car, and so forth. All documents and household records are available on the video screen for immediate reference. Also at his disposal is an electronic correspondence machine, or home post office, which allows for instant written communication between individuals anywhere in the world. To maintain these and hundreds of complex electronic circuits, a monitor checks all circuits every few seconds, inserts a backup circuit if and when trouble develops, and alerts the communal service agency for replacement.
So you heard people talking about the cloud. That's what the cloud looks like. So what I love about this is they got it completely right. So 44 years on, this is that device. You know, this is the device that is your electronic correspondence machine. This is your device that allows you to shop, that allows you to see videos of the kids, to communicate, to do your household chores. So there's quite a big lesson in what technology is doing to us. It's not about technology at all, it's about our human needs, and they're not going to change. You know, we're emotional beings, we're social beings. We want simplification of our lives. So when people come up with magical visions of the new machine that's going to change how we live, it's always worth thinking, well, how's that going to improve my life as an emotional, social human being? Because they're the things that catch on. There's a science fiction writer, William Gibson, who coined the term cyberspace, who said something that's become quite famous, but it kind of defines what we do at Wired. The future's here now, it's just unevenly distributed, so it's looking for the outliers, the people who are doing these bizarre things, checking into a restaurant on something called Foursquare, or using a Sky Plus type box, and eventually, sometimes within months, that goes mainstream and that changes everybody's assumptions. So that's what I'm going to do now, look at some of the things that are now not quite mainstream, but are changing the economy, they're changing industries. And it's changing my industry. We're being disrupted. Pretty much all of us are being disrupted. 3 years ago, I thought I was coming in to edit a nice, shiny Condé Nast magazine, but no longer. We've had to reskill our teams. We're now making multimedia. We have to be filmmakers and broadcasters, and we have to know how to navigate photos around 360 degrees. So we're doing apps in all sorts of places, reconfiguring how we tell stories. Podcasts, so we're DJs, we're audio broadcasters. Last week we did a 2-day-long event with 400 people and speakers from around the world. And again, is this going to be the future of our business? It's hard to know, but all we know is we have a brand, we have a community, and the old rules about where the money comes from many of your fine organizations into the advertising pages, may not be the way that we make money in the future in the same way. The brands still need to reach that community, but maybe it will be by sharing access in other ways where there is money. So some of the other Condé Nast magazines are doing some interesting things. If you go to Moscow, you can have lunch in the Vogue Cafe with lots of oligarchs and their models, and then there's the GQ bar. In fact, in London, the people at Vogue are now setting up the Vogue College of Fashion and Design, where you'll be able to pay a fee for a short course or a year-long course, which kind of makes sense. It's a brand extension. But you have to be careful how far you go. So I was looking into what the possibilities are. So I was thinking, okay, so we can do consulting, because there's a lot of demand for big corporates, from banks, to understand what's happening. But Cosmo, a couple of years ago, did a Cosmo yogurt, which is not really us. Now, do you remember The Graduate? Mr. Maguire says to Benjamin, I just want to say one word to you, Benjamin, one word. So if it were now, Mr. Maguire's word would be mobile, because everything is going mobile, and we're at still a very early stage of something that is transformative and creates massive opportunities. If you want to start a startup, if you want to help take a big corporate along this journey, most of them still don't understand the transformative power of the mobile internet. So I'm just going to explain a bit why we're no longer at the desktop internet era. We're now officially at the mobile internet era and what it means. So 3 times as many people are on a mobile device, but most of them are still old school. The smartphone is growing, but not as quickly as demand for it is growing. So once the smartphone not just crosses Europe, but crosses Africa, which is a huge burgeoning consumer market, India, China, everywhere else, it means brands can reach an informed global audience who will transact wherever they are. And I'll talk about some of the advantages, but just a couple of stats. So Kleiner Perkins, the big VC firm, has made some investments in little companies like Google and Amazon. In the 60s, when the big computers took over a whole room, maybe there were 1 million of them. By the 90s, when PCs were out there, maybe 100 million. The internet was maybe 1 billion people. But now, already, there's more than 10 billion devices on the mobile internet, and it's growing exponentially. And that's, not just your Kindle, your tablets, your car, your gaming system, everything, little tags in the street to tell about atmospheric pollution or weather, increasingly little sensors that we're going to wear that monitor our health. Everything is going to be connected. There'll be a vast stream of data, and some smart people are going to make a lot of money trying to turn that data into stuff we can use. But officially earlier this year, the first quarter of this year, we reached the mobile internet age because before the analysts had predicted, the sales of PCs were overtaken by smartphones plus tablets. The inflection point. You can't really argue with those numbers. If you don't want too many numbers, it's been a long day. This is the graph, and this is where it leads. And I think it's not an accident that this man is no longer the wealthiest man in the world. He's been overtaken by this man, Carlos Slim, who made his money in telecoms. So if mobile is the big trend underlying this, data, which sounds like a very boring word, but it's actually behind everything. Data empowers all of us if we can actually understand how to use it. So Eric Schmidt, formerly the boss at Google, said a few months ago at a conference I was at that in the whole of human civilization up until 2003, collectively as a species, we generated about 5 exabytes of data. It's about 5 billion gigabytes of data. Now we're generating that every 2 days, and the pace is accelerating. So every time you stream a movie, every time you check in, every email, every Spotify song, that's more data. So the good news is it's getting easier and cheaper to store. So 1 terabyte of data. I bought this on Amazon about 6 months ago for £50. 1,024 gigabytes. I never thought I would fill 1 terabyte of data. My musical tastes are a bit more diverse, but you get the point. It changed my behaviour instantly. Within 2 months, I'd filled it, because you stop deleting stuff. You keep copies of stuff. If you see a movie, you keep it, because maybe one day you'll want it again. Videos of friends and stuff, you just keep on there. And the price of data storage is going down to 0, so it's no longer something we consider. So if you're in a world where we can all tell the network where we are, what we've been doing, what our intentions are, voice recognition to Siri goes into the network, that changes things. And that's even before we get to 4G. So there are companies like Yota, a Russian company, that's rolling out the 4th generation internet. The UK is quite behind because the telecom companies overpaid for their licenses on 3G. But already you go even to places like Jersey and a lot of Eastern Europe and a lot of South America. And when there's broadband wherever you are, think about how that would change things. You could do, video calls on the bus. You can watch whatever movies wherever you are. In the basement of your house, you'll get that signal. And it's going to be even more of a change in behaviour. But let's think about the data we can give out now and where this could go. So for $99 today, you can go to the website of 23andMe, which is a company in California that tells you about your personal DNA. 23 pairs of chromosomes for people, and you spit in this little vial, send it through the post. 4 or 5 weeks later, you get your personal web pages, which tell you maybe 50 medical conditions and your risk of getting them compared with the norm, your reaction to things like alcohol. Do you flush when you have alcohol? Your likely baldness outcome if you're a guy, your eye colour and so on. It's really quite detailed, and it tells you where your family originated through the haplotype, so it gives you a little map. But what's really interesting is you get an inbox, and anybody on the network who they recognise as a cousin, they'll give you a list of, so you can explore. And they can tell if you're a cousin quite easily. So you get, on mine I think I had 900 first, second, third cousins. Didn't actually have a first one, but second cousins. They can tell there's a great-grandparent. And I got an email last week. I did it anonymously because I was slightly wary about giving all my data out there. But I wouldn't be talking about it if I discovered something scary. So I did it under a fake name, and I saw there's a writer I really know, and I get on with, and we hang out, David Eagleman. And he's in the States, and he's a cousin of mine I discovered through this. But what's really interesting is people want to start conversations. So I got this one. Hi, my name's Alison. I'm contacting you because we share 0.62% DNA on 6 segments. We could be cousins. Do you want to chat? And I thought, sorry, Alison, I still haven't dealt with all the LinkedIn requests, all the friend requests on Facebook, all the spam emails. But you can see where this leads. It's going to be quite interesting when a lot of people who realise that their parents, their father, isn't who they thought, discover this. And the data...
Each day, millions of...
Let me say that again. The data can improve your health outcome in all sorts of interesting, creative ways. So if you have asthma, people here with asthma, you'll know that you can't always predict where it hits. So what if you can use data and things like GPS to try and understand those patterns and give information that can help you make better decisions? So this is what a bunch of American doctors did.
Americans carry and use inhalers to relieve asthma symptoms. How often a person uses their inhaler indicates how well their disease is managed. The Spiroscout is a small device that attaches easily to most inhalers. It uses GPS to automatically determine the exact time and location when the inhaler is used, because revealing where people use their inhalers provides valuable clues about environmental exposures that cause attacks. Our tools help patients, physicians, and public health agencies systematically track asthma in real time so that they can put the latest information to work to better understand and control the disease.
So you can see why I think data is actually quite sexy, and there's a whole new trend of visualizing data in all sorts of creative ways. We have a section in our magazine called Info Porn, where each month we're trying to show stuff that could be really dull. Actually, you can make it come to life. And I'm a real optimist about what all this means for health, and I'll come back to that with a few other examples. So, data, knowing where people are, huge network where everything is connected. If you can find benefits in connecting you in real time in a physical place, new opportunities again. So, augmented reality. It was a bit meh for quite a long time, but now people are finding quite clever ways to display information on your smartphone screen using the camera. So there's a Dutch company called Layar that makes a browser which is open to anyone to develop applications for. So this is one called Plane Finder. You point your phone in the sky. It uses an open database of where commercial aircraft are in real time, and it displays that plane up there. It's 38 miles from landing. It's been in the air for this long. It's come from this airport, it's that far away from you now. So when they released this, there was a bit of, oh, the terrorists are going to use this. But I figure if you see a bunch of terrorists with their, their Android phones going like that, you pretty know who the bad guys are. But again, it's all about creativity, how we can use this technology to improve our lives. So if you're going shopping for a place to live, you can either go into the estate agent or go online with lists, or you can walk down the streets you like, this is in Amsterdam, and find properties for sale just by geolocation. Well, this is my favourite. I was in Berlin a couple of weeks ago, and if you go to where the Berlin Wall used to be, with this app, it shows you what it would have looked like. Again, it's through the camera displaying on the screen. So it enhances the experience. It's just data displayed in a cool way. So, yes, there's commercial applications. You can check in because the network knows where you are, and the store knows your previous spending history. I think we're going to see a lot more of this, but much more personally targeted when you combine your social network and your location and your previous purchase history. But you can also do other interesting things with geolocation. So this is an app called Badu, which many of you here may use, set up by a Russian who lives in central London, who is making hundreds of millions of dollars a year out of this, because it's quite simple. You upload your picture, a couple of lines about yourself, and it uses geolocation to find, you can scroll, do you want to meet someone 50 meters away, 500 meters away? And it's free. So 110 million people, I think it's now 120 million people have joined it. So it's a good model. When you join, you get to the top of the search results. Very quickly, because there's 120 million people there, you get very, very low down on the search results. But you can pay £1 or $1 or €1 to get higher up. And Andre, the guy who founded it, said to me, David, a dating site, when they're successful, customer go away. My site, when they're successful, customer keep coming back. But this is a London business being valued in the billions. Venture capitalists are all over it, hugely profitable. So here's a word you need to take away, which is solo-mo. Coined by this man, a venture capitalist called John Dare, a very early investor in most of the big companies that we take for granted. And he says now he's only investing in companies that have social, local, and mobile aspects, because that's the growth opportunity, and that is where transactions are, and that is where you can understand consumer desire in an incredibly efficient way and drive them to spend money. So solo-mo, that's all sorts of businesses. It's every industry has that potential. This is recruitment. So through Facebook, a company like Branch Out encourages you to reach out to your network to provide social recruitment. And they're growing incredibly quickly. So in a month, it went from 10,000 users to 250,000 users. There's normal retail. So this is a company, Giant Nerd, where you can buy snowboarding gear and outdoor gear. But they've made it social. They've built it around your social networks, your friends' likes, and so on. And again, huge increases in traffic, and people are spending more money. And social gaming. So you probably played some of these sorts of games. This is Wooga, a company out of Berlin. 36 million active users. So most of the games they don't pay for, but they pay for weird things inside the games. They pay for digital fuel. We're living our social identity increasingly online, so we'll pay to enhance our status in these games. So commerce in particular is going a combination of social and mobile, and some examples already out there, many of them through these people. I've just done a piece for our next issue on what they call social design, which is their vision that every industry has to redesign itself around the social graph. And they're quite serious about this. So already we've had media. So Spotify, you discover what your friends like. And we're having travel, and we're having the beginnings of retail. But you know, their vision is you'll choose a school for your kids, or you'll choose a doctor via recommendations from your social graph. So what does that mean now? That means businesses like this, which encourage you to sync all your spending cards, your PayPal account, your eBay handle, your credit cards, and it publishes what you're buying to. You can either open it to the world or to smaller groups. It turns purchases into conversations. Or there's these collaborative sites, Polyvore, where you can collectively design the perfect dinner party setting or the perfect outfit, and the community votes, and the good ones rise to the top, and you're encouraged to purchase. You can solve some of life's intractable problems. So you know that moment when you're in the changing room and you don't know whether to get the blue top or the green top, and your other half isn't there? Well, now you can take a photo, upload it to Go Try It On, and in real time people will come back to you and tell you which suits you more. So I mentioned travel. This is happening now. This is a whole bunch of sites either about to launch or have just launched. And it makes sense. It's social. You want recommendations. You don't have that much time off to travel. You don't want to choose rubbish places. So you go through friends and friends of friends. And this is Trippy, a site that's trying to work out how to do this effectively.
I've been wanting to plan a trip to Beachtown since my friend Katie went and won't shut up about how great it is. But here's what happens when I research Beachtown on the travel sites. Hundreds of hotel links and reviews, and I still know basically nothing about Beachtown because I don't know who to listen to. So here's what I do instead. I go to Trippy and I start a new trip. I say where I'm going and what I'm looking for, and Trippy ties into my Facebook and other places to find my friends who can help. Oh look, Donnie went to school in Beachtown, and Mikey just checked in there last week. And of course, I know how much Katie loves Beachtown. Hey, all right.
Sweetie, what was the name of that beautiful resort we stayed at?
Seashells.
Seashells.
Donnie says I should stay at Seashells, and some of my other friends seem to agree. So I click Add to Trip, and I can book it right from Trippy. Ooh, luxurious. I can't wait to stay there.
Oh, and I know how you love shrimp tacos. You have to go to Sandy's.
Yes, please.
Oh, that is amazing.
When I'm on my trip, I can use the Trippy app to capture it all in my album and share it with the people that made my trip great.
Hey, all right.
This trip is shaping up to be incredible. And if any of my friends are dreaming of a trip like this, it's really easy to copy it for themselves.
Oh, and you can't leave without taking your picture at Cappy's Bluff. It's sort of a tradition.
Okay, I'll do it.
Cappy's Bluff.
I knew I wanted to visit Beachtown. I got my friends to help me plan the trip, and I got to take them along for the ride. And what made it all possible? Trippy. It's the new way to travel.
Cappy's
Yeah. I ain't going on holiday with her. But it's a threat to the advertising model, and I think there's going to be a whole load more services like this. And if you want to go and get 10 or 20 million pounds funding now, just write down a business plan which finds a social way to open up another business, another sector, because consumers are there and they're spending. So I want to tell you about some of the weird psychology that goes on in this new world. This is my friend Ryan. So Ryan collected all his personal credit card details in his PayPal account and synced them to a site called Blippy, so that every time he bought something it would get published. And he opened it to everyone, and he ended up working there actually. He loved the site. So you could see when he was buying a t-shirt or when he was buying dental floss. And then I saw that Ryan had bought a Glock 23 gun. Because, you know, Californians do that kind of stuff. But then it was weird. There's like a conversation underneath, and people are saying, well, that's cool. This is why I'm doing it. So I said, you know, Ryan, why do you want to share all this stuff with everybody? It's just kind of, it's not what we do in England. It's weird. And he said, well, I'm just an ordinary guy, but this gives me a sense of power. I've got people listening to me. I've got people interested in knowing what decisions I'm taking. So it enhances my status in that world. It makes me cooler. And then there's other people on the network. I don't know them, but I like some of the things they've bought in the past. So I want to learn what they're buying next, so I follow them. And it's kind of a social identity enhancement. So it's a virtual currency of you. It's the ego version of you. It's kind of working. Big brands are now going directly to the social networks to bypass conventional advertising. So when Volkswagen launched its Golf GTI last summer, it did an entirely Facebook-based campaign, and it realized that when you're making a decision about buying a car, you don't just buy it on the specs, on the price. You buy it if your friends and your family think it's cool. So it allowed you to customize your car online and then share it through the social networks. Hey, share my car. Do you like this? Is this cool? Validate me. Feedback on my GTI. So very quickly they had 500,000 people go through this process, and they said it led to a huge boost in the number of test drives. And when you've got a test drive, much more likely to get a transaction. And you may have seen that Levi's did a friend store, a personal store for you, David's store, with clothes that your friends had liked. That little button is incredibly powerful. But we're a bit odd. We make weird decisions and spend money on stuff that makes no sense. So this is a virtual nightclub in a virtual asteroid in a game called Project Entropia that last year sold for $635,000 real dollars. Why? Because people spend quite a lot of their time there, and to get status inside the game you have to really work at it. So the guy who turned a nice profit realized that we would pay for this. This is a game you could play for free on your smartphone. You have a casino, but you can customize little bits of your casino on your smartphone. And Shervin Peshawar, the guy who was running the company, was telling me that one woman had just spent $40,000 customizing her corner of a virtual casino on the screen of her smartphone. But it made absolute sense to her, because that's where she projected her identity. So there's a book coming out by Andrew Keane who talks about digital narcissism. He thinks we're doing way too much of this sharing. There's no benefit to us. And to a certain extent, that if something is free, then you're probably the product. But we don't care. We're just out there. We're using this. We're having fun. Nothing wrong with fun. But we're getting obsessed by really weird things like our online currency, our online status. So you can go to Clout, and there's another site called Peer Index, and get a number for how influential you are on the peer networks or the social networks. So I'm only at 54. You've got to work your way up towards 100, and it tells you what kind of person you are. Are you an influencer? Are you a follower? But it's now affecting the real world. So a few weeks ago, there was a Fashion Week party, and a nightclub in New York put on its invitation, you can only come in if you've got a clout score above 40. And I've heard of a marketing agency that's only interviewing people for jobs if they've got a clout score above 50. So this is becoming quite serious. This is the nightclub. 40 or over to get in. So we're living in this kind of digital world. We are paying for pixels. We are worrying about our virtual representation in this kind of avatar version of ourselves. And we're behaving in ways that we wouldn't really behave in the real world. So I just, if you're on Facebook, many of you are probably quite active on Facebook, just imagine if that were real life and how weird it would be.
Can I be your friend? Can I write on your wall?
No.
Will you be my friend? But I write on all my friends' walls.
I think I'd have to know you before I was your friend.
All my friends have got like 180 friends. I've only got 2.
Yeah?
Would it help if maybe like you looked at my photos? That one's with 2 like really pretty girls. Like, that's my ex. I was in a relationship with her, but I've changed my status now.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your relationship status?
Single.
Oh, good. Cool. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Good.
I like your jacket.
Thank you.
I like your sunglasses. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on it? I like your Ray-Bans. Could I poke you? Poke? Poke? No?
No.
What, poke? What, you want to poke?
Can I poke you?
Yeah, you can poke me if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, how am I... No, dude, seriously, just be my friend. If I just show you these pictures in this photo album... What's your name on Twitter?
Mark de Libre.
So you use Twitter?
Yeah.
I'm going to follow you.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I'm going to follow you.
Right, okay.
Wicked, cool.
Great.
Right, thanks a lot, nice one. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Yeah.
You're guessing what's going to happen now, aren't you? Okay. He follows them. This is the best trailer for an opera the English National Opera has ever done. So we've heard a lot about gamification, which has become a bit of a meaningless term. Everybody wants to gamify their product, their campaign. There's actually a serious use of game strategy to drive changes in human behavior, but it's often not what is sold by marketing campaigns. There's quite a lot of behavioral economics work, and Rory Sutherland talks about this, and Dan Ariely. And if you can make people compete in a way that is like a game, you can change their behavior for good. So a couple of examples, that if you have a Prius, the way that it encourages you to save fuel is to give you targets, and then you compete online with other people to be the best at saving fuel. Or there's a company called O-Power in the States, but it's just come over here, that designs bills for your energy that encourage you to consume less. And I think they're working with First Utility here. It tells you how much energy, gas, electricity you've consumed compared with your neighbours, but also compared with your really efficient neighbours. And you get little smiley faces. And the people who get these bills, on average now, are using about 4% less than people who get the ordinary bills. So you can change behaviour. And I run with an app called Runkeeper, and it encourages you to share your runs with other people. And of course, if you know that other people are going to be commenting on your run, it makes you turn up. You can't really make an excuse and stay in bed, because you kind of feel that peer pressure. So the crowd is incredibly powerful, and peer-to-peer, I think we've only seen the beginnings of what that's capable of doing, which can mean cutting out the official company. It can mean cutting out the banking industry. So the prime example of this is in Kenya. Vodafone, with the British Development Department, set up something called M-Pesa. Not many banks in rural Kenya, not many ATMs, but if you have a basic cell phone and you want to transfer money to somebody else, you can use their cell phone number and a PIN number, and you can do it directly. And there are people all over the country who you can give money to, and they'll put it on your account, and they'll take a tiny commission. It's about 4 years old, and now 25 to 30% of all money spent in Kenya goes through that system. It's extraordinary. They're trying to expand it in other countries. The banking industry in the other countries say there's security implications. You shouldn't really do this, but they're threatened. But that's come from nowhere, and that is now one of the dominant ways that people spend money. So, banking again, why should, when you transfer your money to euros or dollars, why should you pay the 3% or 4% commission fee when peer-to-peer we can do it directly? So there are sites like this is TransferWise, that will transact at the bank rate, and they'll take a £1 flat fee. Makes absolute sense. Why haven't we been doing this before? Because the internet creates this frictionless platform that connects us. And it's happening in health with sites like Patients Like Me, where you can share your symptoms and your responses to an illness in real time before the medical journals have caught up with it. It's happening to peer-to-peer lending. This is the British site Zopa. If you have some money, you can set an interest rate. If you want to borrow money, you can see what rate you'll pay. Guess how much the default rate is? These are strangers lending to each other. Pretty much less than 1%. Credit card default rates are 8 to 12%. This community is about 1%. Also on Kiva, where you can give microloans to people the other side of the world, again, hundreds of millions of dollars have been lent, typically with less than 1% default. So people behave well. So just sticking to banking again, why it's such a, I'll use the word disruptive, but it's threatening the ways every industry works. There's a bunch of companies now that are trying to work with your smartphone, incredibly powerful computer, more powerful computers in this than NASA had in the rockets that went to the moon. Little devices that go onto the bottom and become card readers, or this one, which is called a Square. Jack Dorsey, one of the co-founders of Twitter, set up the company. This goes into the audio jack of your phone. It's got a little swiper over here. You can swipe a credit card or a debit card, so anybody can take electronic cash. And they're planning to launch it here. It's currently booming in the States. He's talking about it being $1 billion business pretty soon. They take just 2.75% transaction fee, and you don't have to sign up as a merchant. And it means every car boot sale, every taxi driver can take electronic money. It changes the rules. We can all be designers. I don't know if you go to Kickstarter, where anybody can pitch a creative project and see if the crowd will help fund it. So there's lots of movies and novels and other things pitched, but a couple of product designers wanted to make a watch with the iPod Nano as the face and a lovely strap around it, and they thought they would need about $15,000 to make it viable. 13,500 people thought, that's a great idea, I'd like to own that, and they got close to 1 million. And that's real-time, free market research. You've user-tested it, you found there's a market, and the network will help you sell to that market. New rules. What about the car industry? We can all design cars. We don't have to go through the big companies. There's a company called Local Motors in the state that is a community of people who have designed this rally car. People submit their designs, you vote, and then the beautiful thing is, when it's been agreed what the design is, they will help you build it over a couple of weekends. They will provide all the kit. It's about $50,000 to have your own rally car. And it's a real car. And because you've helped make it, you love it. They're doing a sports car next. Cool, huh? So any industry you can think of is being torn apart by the upstart newcomer who's offering an efficient service. So we're all competing against the internet. So this is Sal Khan, who started doing educational videos for his niece. And lots of other people thought, hey, they're really cool. And he's getting millions of views, and there's now 7,000 and something videos he's put up there. Go to the Khan Academy when you're home and have a look at what's up there. And you think, wow, this is as good as anything, if not better than I got at university. Car hire? Why not be a car hire company?
A car, but it is expensive, and it often just sits there doing nothing. This morning, Dave put his car on Whipcar. It was completely free, and it only took him 5 minutes. This is Kate. Kate is lovely. She doesn't own a car, but she does need to use one every now and then. If Kate visits whipcar.com, she can find lots of cars that are available to rent within a 5-minute walk. Whipcar owners set their own prices, and Kate can rent a car for as little as an hour. For Kate, Whipcar is the most convenient and affordable way of renting a car. Once a booking is agreed, Whipcar's partners automatically insure Dave's car for this rental, so he doesn't need to worry about his no-claims bonus. To pick up the car, Kate simply brings her booking number and her driving licence to the agreed location. So, Kate uses Whipcar to rent a car that is close, convenient and affordable, and Dave uses Whipcar to make money whenever he's not using.
So there isn't really an industry that can't be bypassed by the internet. If we can provide a value to each other, then Avis and Hertz can't get away with charging for a service they're not delivering. So I'm thinking in every bit of my job, what am I doing to compete, to add value to the internet? So we can't be first with the news. We can't have the most opinions. So for a magazine, I guess it's the curation, it's the design, it's the long-form storytelling. But all of us, I think, have to constantly think, what value are we adding? There's another example. This is a company called Waze, W-A-Z-E, from Israel, that is a community where once you join, it tracks your cell phone use, and it uses that to see traffic speed. So this is Los Angeles, and you can also tell the network there's a police trap up there, there's a danger, there's been an accident. And it's got huge funding recently because it works. So, we've talked about the digital opportunities. I just want to talk briefly about the physical, real-world opportunities. There is a very fast-growing opportunity in manufacturing, the rise of what's called the 3D printer, a process called additive manufacturing, which allows you to design something on screen and then have it printed in all sorts of materials: titanium, steel, gold, plastics, chocolate, and price is coming down not just of the machines but of the products, and it means all of us can help co-create things. We can design things and have it manufactured, or you can manufacture something bypassing the traditional factories. There's some examples. It's a London company called Within Technologies where they've been designing engine parts, so you can design things that you can't actually manufacture because it's impossible through conventional machines, but it's designed to be as hollow as possible so it's light, but also as strong as possible. They've also designed these medical implants. These are for spines. Lots of little holes, so they'll fuse to your bones, and they're very light. This is medical-grade titanium. At our conference last week, somebody played this 3D printed Stradivarius. German company called EOS in Munich. They scanned a real Strad, and they printed, the body is a type of plastic, and they had a violinist put strings and the bridge on it, and it sounded great. So you can make jewellery. This is a bicycle printed in nylon, in one piece. So a group of students in Southampton designed and made this UAV in a week. It's an artist who I know in Tel Aviv, Eyal Gever. He designs explosions on his screen. He simulates them, and then he prints them using a 3D printer. So this is kind of this big. This is a flood or a waterfall. Shoes that fit you perfectly. because they've had a scan of your body. So it changes the rules of copyright. So what happened with music and with film on the internet is now going to start happening with real products because you can copy them. So if you saw Super 8, the movie, there's this cube. So there's a website called Shapeways where people make an offer to trade 3D made goods. So somebody, a guy called Todd, made a copy of this, and he got a cease and desist letter straight away from Paramount, the studio. But I don't think that's a sustainable position, because everybody can take something and modify it. It's going to be an open source world. The next step is 3D printed human parts, and making parts for veins and kidneys, growing them in these things and printing them cell by cell. So what does this mean for things like privacy with all this information we're giving out there? It's a 20th century aberration, privacy. Doesn't really exist anymore. So the idea of ordering a pizza in the future could be a bit like this.
Pizza Palace, guaranteed hot in 30 minutes or it's free. This is Mary. May I take your order?
Hi, Mary. Yes, I'd like to order.
Is this Mr. Kelly?
Yes?
Thank you for calling again, sir. I show your national identification number is 610-204-999-8-45-54610. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I see you live at 736 Montrose Court, but you're calling from your cell phone. Are you at home?
I'm just leaving work, but I'm...
Oh, we can deliver to Bob's Auto Supply. That's at 175 Lincoln Avenue, yes?
No, I'm on my way home. How do you know all this stuff?
We just got wired into the system, sir.
Oh, well, I'd like to order a couple of your double meat special pizzas.
Sure thing. There'll be a new $20 charge for this, sir.
What do you mean?
Sir, the system shows me that your medical records indicate that you have high blood pressure and extremely high cholesterol. Luckily, we have a new agreement with your national health care provider that allows us to sell you double meat pies as long as you agree to waive all future claims of liability.
What?
Do you agree, sir? You can sign the form when we deliver, but there is a charge for processing. The total is $67 even.
$67?
Well, that includes the delivery surcharge of $15 to cover the added risk to our driver of traveling through an orange zone.
I live in an orange zone?
Now you do. Looks like there was another robbery on Montrose yesterday. You could save $48 if you ordered our special Sprout Submarine Combo and picked it up yourself. Comes with tofu sticks. Those are very tasty, sir. Good value, too.
But I want double meat.
Well, I'm sure you can afford the $67 then. You just bought those tickets to Hawaii. They weren't cheap, eh? Oh, but I see you checked out the budget beach bum at the library last week. Up to you, sir.
All right. I'll get the Sprout subs.
Good choice, sir. Gotta watch that waist if you're hitting the beach, eh? 42 inches. Wow. Man, I'd say tofu and Sprouts is, like, required.
That's how much?
Just between you and me, there's a $3 off coupon in this.
So this is not an advert for a pizza restaurant. This is the American Council for Civil Liberties warning against it, but I think they've got no chance. We did a cover story on privacy a few months ago, and we decided to take random subscribers and go into the open public internet and find out stuff about them. And then we custom printed covers for them, only for them. And it was extraordinary what you found. So their kids had put videos on YouTube with them having arguments in the background, and people have split up with their boyfriends, and there were tweets. And then if you go to the electoral register, you can see who people live with, and you can cross-match. One guy who reviews technology for another publication, we found, because he had his eBay handle on one of his tweets, he's been selling them systematically. So we found on eBay, HTC phone, £399. You shouldn't do that. So the last of my 10 trends is the way we interact with the machine is becoming much more human. The idea of technology becomes less relevant. Example, eye tracking. A company called Tobii in Stockholm makes eye tracking cameras. They use them to optimize advertising campaigns and web pages. They've now started embedding them into laptops, so you can navigate your way through the screen just by looking. So I tried this. You calibrate it for a couple of seconds, and then no hands, no mouse. You can open folders. You can drag files across the desks. If you played Kinect, launched last November, the fastest selling, or the biggest selling consumer, the fastest selling consumer electronic device in history. The whole concept is the camera reads your movements, so you don't need to click on a remote control. That's now creating a whole other world where the community, the crowd, is finding clever new ways to use it. So people are hacking their Kinect.
Us. Hello, Michael here, and in IMG 12 I showed you some Kinect fails, but today I want to explore my favorite Kinect wins. The Kinect tracks 20 joints on your body 30 times a second, and with simple drivers, people from all over the world are taking it into their own hands. Besides exploiting the fact that it's an actual 3D camera, people are harnessing it to play all sorts of games with their hands in the air like they just don't care. For example, Minecraft, Mario Kart, Super Mario Brothers, or this guy who made a demo of 3D Tetris where your hands manipulate the pieces and you can move your head to change the screen's perspective. A few days ago, Kevin showed you a guy who used the Kinect to motion track his nipples and cover them up. Well, if you're less shy, do what this guy did. Program your Kinect to recognize and reify your air guitar. It's like playing Rock Band, but without all the plastic paraphernalia. This guy let it detect his body, but then replace it with the back wall to make him the invisible man. Creepy, right? Well, not as creepy as this. Here's someone who took the Kinect's recognition of his body and had it transform him in real time to a giant, pillowy blob mutant. In case you're curious, yes, he did make a follow-up video with his cat.
So this is the unevenly distributed future. There are people now playing with all this stuff, but think how it's going to affect us in 5 years. You know, your car will recognize who you are. There'll be face recognition. It will sync your personal calendar, your personal next appointment. It will give the GPS route to you. It's finding uses for that. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of optimistic news. I'm a bit obsessed with health because I think data plus health. We've got a piece in our current issue about a guy called Christopher Tumazu, a London medic and specialist who's developing sensors for all sorts of things. But I'm tracking quite a lot of data to see patterns to try and improve. You can sleep with something called a Zeo. I know a lot of people who are wearing these bands around their head and it wakes them up when they're at the optimal stage and it tells you detailed sleep graphs afterwards, so when you were in REM. And so you can actually get a better night's sleep by knowing your patterns. A French company called Things, it connects all sorts of devices, scales to the internet so you can see patterns. And they've just released this thing, which reads your blood pressure, medical grade, and it's really an app. This plugs into your iPad or your iPhone, you fire it up, and it inflates. It's got batteries in here, and it's fantastic. It's really accurate. And interestingly, you get a web page, and you can control who gets access to it. So you can give your doctor access to it, so you don't have to go in for the appointments the whole time. So this is just the beginning. Douglas Adams, great man, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy writer, said something wise I'm going to leave you with, that anything that was invented before you're about 15 is part of the order of nature. It's always been like that. That's how it should be. Anything invented between the ages of about 15 and 35 is kind of exciting, and you might actually get some career benefit from it. But anything invented after 35 is against nature and should be prohibited. So I would say hang out with the 15-year-olds a bit more, get to know the interns, because you can't really argue with that. And even while I've been standing here, this is what's been happening in social media land. This is, let's see what's happening in games. See, all this money's being made from zeros and ones. It's crazy. Thank you.